they're driving right now, you know it's way more than just holding the wheel steady.
Absolutely. The whole job description seems to have changed, hasn't it?
It really has. Our sources are pretty clear. The modern OTR driver isn't just an operator anymore. You basically have to be the CEO of your own cab.
CEO of the cab, I like that.
Yeah.
Managing miles, fuel, and a whole minefield of other stuff.
Exactly. Legal risks, constantly shifting regulations, huge financial pressures. It's a lot.
So our mission today is to unpack those external pressures, the things that kind of keep you on the defensive. But then, and this is important, we want to pivot to the solution.
Right, because it's not just about the problems, it's about finding resilience, finding freedom.
And we believe that starts with managing your time and, your future, not just the next load of freight. We're trying to look at this from all angles, like our friends at LifeAsATrucker advise.
Okay, so let's hit the gas. What's probably the biggest external threat right now? I'd say it's the legal and financial squeeze. The industry even has a name for it. Jackpot Justice.
Oh yeah, you can't miss those billboards, can you?
Yeah.
Hurt by a truck. Call us. Or you see the news about some massive settlement like $25 million awarded.
That's exactly it. It paints the legal system almost like a lottery.
Right.
Jackpot Justice, it refers to these huge nuclear verdicts. We're talking tens of millions, sometimes even hundreds of millions of dollars.
Wow.
And they get handed out by juries who, they often sympathize with the person injured and just assume the big truck must be dangerous, must be at fault.
Even if the details of the accident are more.
Even if they're highly debatable, yeah. Juries are essentially awarding prizes straight from the pockets of trucking companies and, more importantly, their insurers.
And I imagine when one company gets slammed with a verdict like that, it doesn't just affect them, right?
Oh, it sends shockwaves. It's like a financial earthquake across the whole industry. The biggest immediate hit, insurance premiums.
I bet.
Carriers have seen rates double, even triple, just in the last decade. For the smaller fleets, the owner-operators, it's becoming existential.
Meaning they just can't afford the insurance needed to operate legally.
Precisely. They're being forced to shut down or scale back dramatically, even if they have a great safety record. Safe, experienced drivers pushed out.
Which then becomes a problem for all of us, doesn't it? Fewer trucks, slower supply chains.
Higher costs, absolutely. Less competition. Our research shows pretty clearly that all Americans end up paying for this lawsuit lottery through, higher prices on everything. Inflation, basically.
But what about the impact on the driver behind the wheel? It can't just be economic.
No, it goes much deeper. It creates what some call fear-based driving. You're constantly aware that even a minor incident, maybe not even your fault, could trigger this massive legal battle.
A battle that could end your career.
Exactly. And how do carriers react to that risk? They tighten the reins, more rules, more monitoring, treating drivers, frankly, like robots sometimes.
That just sounds incredibly stressful and maybe counterproductive. If you're pushing out experienced, safe, old-school drivers because they feel the risk isn't worth it.
That is the tragic irony, yes. The pressure is immense, but carriers aren't just rolling over.
What are they doing? Fighting back.
They are investing heavily in defense. That means things like dash cams are basically non-negotiable now.
Evidence.
Ironclad proof, dash cams, constant telematics data, absolutely spotless logs, anything to prove innocence if something happens.
So it's technology versus liability.
It is, and there's also the push for tort reform, trying to get state legislatures to put caps on these crazy damage awards. But the long game, that involves changing the public story.
Shifting the perception away from big truck equals danger.
Exactly. That negative narrative fuels these verdicts.
That fear in the courtroom seems directly connected to the everyday chaos drivers deal with. If lawsuits are the emotional pressure cooker, then the regulations are the operational one.
That's a great way to put it. It takes us right into that daily grind. Regulatory hopscotch, you called it?
Oh, it feels like that sometimes.
The compliance struggle is just... it defines the job now. You're battling the ELD, the rigid 14-hour clock.
A clock that doesn't care if you just sat unpaid at a shipper's dock for 5 hours.
Not one bit. And then boom, your clock runs out, it's getting dark, and you're desperately trying to find a legal, safe parking spot. Good luck after 6 p.m.
It's exhausting just hearing about it.
Right. So in the middle of all this pressure, the FMCSA actually threw the industry a bit of a curveball recently.
Oh, that happened.
They basically hit the snooze button on a bunch of new, potentially really expensive regulations, gave everyone some breathing room.
Okay, that sounds like good news, at least temporarily. What rules are we talking about?
Well, the industry calls them the Big Four. They've all been pushed back to 2026. at the earliest.
The big four. Remind me.
Sure, it's the speed limiter mandate, mandatory automatic emergency braking, or AEB, a big overhaul of the CSA safety rating system, and electronic ID broadcasting for trucks.
Okay, quite a list. Why the delay? Did Washington suddenly agree on something?
Uh-huh. Not likely. No, the research points to the usual suspects, a lot of pushback, especially from owner-operators and smaller fleets saying, hey, we can't afford this tech right now.
Cost is a huge factor.
Always. Plus, there were questions about whether all the technology is even fully ready and reliable. And let's be honest, election season timing probably played a role. Nobody wants to anger the trucking voting bloc right now.
Makes sense. Politics as usual. But the reactions to this delay must be all over the map.
Oh, definitely. You've got the big carriers, the mega fleets. They're mostly pretty cool with it. A lot of them already have speed limiters and AEB systems.
That doesn't change much for them.
Not really, but the small fleets, the owner ops, they feel like they just caught a major break. Gives them time to figure things out, maybe save up.
Okay, but there's always another side, right?
Always. Safety advocacy groups are saying this delay is dangerous. They argue it keeps older, maybe less safe systems on the road longer than necessary.
So that classic tension, safety versus cost versus maybe control.
That's the constant battle. And you see that same tension playing out in another debate, making CDL requirements stricter.
Getting your commercial driver's license, what's the push there?
Well, you have some big carriers and the insurance companies lobbying hard for tougher entry rules, higher test scores, more mandatory training hours, that kind of thing.
On the surface, stricter training sounds good for safety, right? Fewer mistakes from rookies.
That's the argument, yeah. Better training equals safer roads, common sense.
But you sound hesitant. What's the other angle?
We have to look at it like LifeAsATrucker suggests, from all angles. Is it just about safety, or is it also a form of, let's say, repackaged control?
How so?
Think about it. If you make it much harder and way more expensive to get a CDL, who benefits?
The established players, the
Yeah.
big training schools, often linked to the mega carriers.
Exactly. It potentially slows down the number of new independent drivers entering the market. It forces newcomers into longer, costlier training programs, maybe locking them into contracts with the big guys who funded the training.
So it can consolidate power and control the labor pool, essentially?
That's certainly one perspective to consider. It's not just safety, it's also about who controls entry into the profession.
Okay, so whether it's huge lawsuits or complex regulations with hidden agendas, the external world keeps throwing curveballs at drivers.
Constantly shifting, yeah. And often it feels like it's shifting against the independent driver or the small fleet.
Which means if everything outside the cab is volatile,
Then the only real point of control you have is your internal strategy. What you do inside the cab, and importantly, when you're off duty.
and that brings us perfectly to what we're calling the shift, moving from just reacting to these problems to building proactive solutions.
Yes. This came through loud and clear in our sources. Drivers need to start managing their time, not just for the next delivery or the next DOT inspection.
But for themselves, for their own future.
Precisely. The ultimate goal has to be getting out of the truck on your terms when you decide, not when the market forces you out or a lawsuit does.
Okay, so how do you shield yourself from that financial vulnerability? High insurance, rates going up and down.
You build a financial shield that doesn't depend on the freight market. The key strategy. Using your off-duty time smartly to create extra income streams, specifically recurring online income.
Okay, hold on. I can hear drivers listening right now thinking, seriously, after driving 11 hours, dealing with traffic, finding parking, you want me to become an online mogul in my 10-hour break? That sounds exhausting.
I get that reaction, totally. And it would be exhausting if you were trying to, build websites from scratch or do intensive labor. But that's not the strategy the sources talked about.
So what is the strategy?
It's about leverage, specifically leveraging tools like artificial intelligence, AI.
AI. Okay, how does that help a tired driver?
Think about tasks that can be automated or streamlined, maybe using AI to help manage a small e-commerce store, perhaps drop shipping, where you don't handle inventory, or using AI tools to help create simple digital products or content that generate passive income over time.
So the AI does the heavy lifting during the downtime.
It assists significantly. It's not about adding another hard job. It's about using technology to make that mandatory 10-hour reset potentially productive in a low-effort way. You're turning downtime into build time for your future.
I see. You're essentially converting legally required rest time into an investment in your own financial independence.
That's the whole idea. That extra income, that recurring stream, that becomes your path to deciding your own retirement date. Is the cushion against market dips, or maybe even if your trucking company suddenly folds. It reduces the power of all those external risks we discussed.
And thinking about that FMCSA delay we mentioned earlier, the Big Four rules being pushed to 2026, that suddenly looks different, doesn't it?
It becomes a strategic advantage. Instead of just breathing a sigh of relief or maybe complaining about the uncertainty.
Use the window.
Exactly. You've been given this crucial period until 2026 at least. Use this time to actively prepare. Build those off-duty income streams. Maybe upgrade your own tech, like a better dash cam or telematics system, but on your budget and timeline, not the government's mandate.
So you flip the script. Instead of just reacting to compliance demands, you're proactively building your independence.
That's the shift in mindset, from operator reacting to CEO planning. It's key not just for survival, but for thriving.
Okay, that makes sense for building financial resilience. But what about that other pressure point, the negative public image that seems to fuel those massive lawsuits?
Right. We need to tackle that narrative too, reclaiming the true identity of the trucker. You're not a danger on the road. You're often a defender.
How do we get that message across?
By highlighting the essential, often unseen, positive impact drivers have, the public needs to see real stories, not just statistics about accidents. And we found a really powerful example of this.
What was that?
It's the work being done in the fight against human trafficking.
Truckers Against Trafficking, TT.
Exactly. We saw a great example where a rider teamed up with Tati. They brought a mobile exhibit, training materials, right to a major truck stop hub in Fort Worth, Texas. That's a critical intersection, I-35 and I-20, known trafficking corridors.
And it makes perfect sense, because truckers see things others don't, right?
Yeah.
At the stops, the docks.
They are uniquely positioned. They're the frontline eyes that can save lives. They notice the subtle signs, the things that seem off in places the average person never goes.
That's incredibly important work.
It truly is, and the impact is real. Tata has trained over 1.5 million trucking professionals now.
Wow, 1.5 million trained to spot the signs and report it.
Yes, and they do make reports that lead to interventions and rescues. This isn't just PR, it's drivers actively being part of the solution to a horrific problem. It proves truckers are protectors, defenders within our communities.
It completely counters that big bad truck narrative. It shows the driver as essential, protective, powerful, really.
That's the identity we need to amplify. Defender, safety conscious, and increasingly the CEO of their own financial destiny.
So wrapping this all up, the big takeaway seems to be, yes, the challenges are real. Huge legal risks, a tangle of regulations.
Absolutely. They're not going away overnight. But the path forward, the strategy for resilience is becoming clearer. It's about taking control of your time, your skills, and building that personal financial shield.
Sounds like there are two levels of mastery needed. First, mastering compliance. The logs, the dash cam, the rules. That's for survival today, right?
Essential for staying on the road, definitely. Keep those logs clean, make sure the camera's working.
But then there's the second level. Mastering your off-duty time. Using those non-driving hours strategically. That's where the real long-term freedom comes from.
That's the key to sustainability and actually having choices down the road. Preparing now, especially with that 2026 regulatory horizon looming, don't get caught flat-footed.
You know, the source material made its dark point. If trucking collapses, America collapses.
It's the backbone of the economy. Everything stops if the trucks stop.
So given all this external pressure, the lawsuits, the regulations, maybe the ultimate act of professional defense isn't just protecting your driving record.
But protecting your financial independence, building that future outside the immediate demands of the truck.
Yeah. Which leads us to a final thought for everyone listening, a question to maybe mull over on your next long haul or during that 10-hour reset. How much of your time and energy are you currently dedicating to the truck schedule, the regulations, the shippers, versus how much are you allocating to building your own future schedule?
That balance, or maybe imbalance, really tells you where your true control lies, doesn't it? Something definitely worth thinking about. Yeah.